Now, just what would you do if God told you that he was going to destroy the entire world because of corruption, and that he wanted you to build an ark to protect only you and your family? What a question. Can you imagine the weight of that? Of how Noah must have felt hearing that everything that he counted on, everyone that he loved, was going to die except for him and his family? What did Noah do? He did not ask when it was going to happen. He didn't even ask God, how are you going to do it? And after the destruction and after the world's destroyed and all the people have died, what's going to become of me and my family? How are we going to make it? Noah simply did as God instructed him to, and exactly as God wanted it planned. Not only that, he started acting immediately with a heart and an attitude to please God. That was Noah's goal. He was not doing it just to make sure that he avoided disaster, and neither did he ask how long was it going to take before the flood came, or how long is it going to take to build this ark? By the way, God, how much money is it going to cost? No. Noah listened and Noah obeyed. Imagine the picture. Now, we don't know if Noah even lived close to the water. But in that pre-flood day, think of this. Here he is. He was building the largest floating box anyone had ever seen. Well, let's get to Genesis chapter 7. We've progressed, and now we're at the call to the ark. Genesis 7:1. Then the Lord said to Noah, "Come into the ark, you and all your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation." Remember, let's put this in perspective. The flood and everything about it all came about because it was God's decision. God saw that the earth was corrupt, that wickedness had filled everything about it. But in the midst of all of that, his attention was drawn to one man who was righteous enough to gain God's attention and upon whom God bestowed his grace. Now, though, it's time for judgment to come. Time has passed. We're looking at least 100 years, maybe 120 years since Noah got the call. And God is saying, Noah, you and your family come into the ark because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Think of it. The righteousness of one man saved his entire family. But God wanted Noah's family to be alive and well after the flood was over because he needed someone to repopulate the world. However, just because Noah was righteous, just because Noah wanted to obey God, just because Noah was willing to listen to his voice and not become corrupted by everything around him, did not automatically make his sons holy and pure. Each one of his 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, all 3 of them had to make their own choice that they were going to live a life that did not involve sin, and that they would choose to follow God. And more than that, they had to make the choice that they were going to get on the ark with their daddy. Imagine that. Their godly father, Noah, had to have more influence on them than their friends, than society, than all of the events around them. Can you imagine What a responsibility this was for Noah. And what a responsibility this is for husbands and for parents today. As you realize that as you live a good life, as you live a godly life, you too can influence your family. You can help them to make the choice that they're going to follow God, that they're not going to be involved in sin, that they're not going to listen to what's going on in the world, and they're going to say yes to God and no to everything else. Well, the work of getting the ark ready and getting ready for all those animals is finally complete. In Genesis 6:21, God had given Noah another command. He said, "You shall take food for yourself of all the food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to yourselves, and it shall be food for you and for them." Collecting food for thousands of animals for 1 week would be a monumental task. I cannot even think of how to imagine doing it for the time that they were on the ark. I can say no wonder God gave Noah 100 years to collect it. None of the details or how Noah went about doing it are given to us. We don't know how Noah brought it to the ark, and how in the world would you store enough for maybe up to 7,000 animals for a year. What we do know is that God helped him in everything that he did. And perhaps, and this is just a maybe because the Bible doesn't say so, but maybe God, during that time that they were on the ark, caused some of the animals to go into hibernation, which would certainly make the amount of food required less and also make caring for those animals a whole lot less. Now, just because they went into hibernation doesn't mean that no food was needed, because contrary to what a lot of people think, hibernating animals do not sleep the entire winter. They get up for snacks. And so some of the food had to be there. And since they were going to be on the ark for such a long time, the food types collected were probably seeds and grains, dried plants, and probably they also had compressed, dried, and concentrated foods along with the grain and hay for cattle and other mammals. But we're getting down to the time that 1 week's notice, gather all the animals. Genesis 7:2-3. "And you shall take with you 7 of every clean animal, a male and his female. 2 of the animals that are unclean, a male and his female. Also 7 birds of the air, male and females. 2 to keep the species alive on the face of the earth." Now, this probably meant that Noah was to take the animals in pairs, which would mean 14 of the clean animals, 7 pair, and 4 unclean, 2 pairs. Some people say, well, I think maybe he just took 7. Well, taking them in pairs follows a directive given earlier in Genesis 6:19 of taking a male and female to keep the species alive. And also it says here, take of the birds of the air, 7, male and female. I mean, I can do math a little bit. If I've got 7 and I want them divided into male and female, that means 3.5. It means somebody is going to be left without a partner. So this definitely has to mean 7 pairs. And God then divided them into 2 categories, the clean and the unclean. Now that is not a term that we're real familiar with because we don't talk about that a lot today. And we have to go all the way back to Leviticus and Deuteronomy to find out what this really means, because these 2 books give us the features of what a clean and an unclean animal are and how to distinguish between them. Both are similar in that they're land animals that breathe the air, but the major distinction is clean animals have a divided hoof and they chew their cud. While the unclean animals, they do not have a split hoof and they do not chew their cud. It's as simple as that. Since the Bible does list very few animals as being clean, the majority of the animals which Noah took on the ark would fall in the category of one pair rather than 7 pairs. Taking the additional animals that were clean were in preparation for after the flood. Post-flood, as soon as they got off the ark, Noah offered a sacrifice to the Lord. And for that, he would need the clean animals. Also, after the flood, Noah, for the first time, is given permission to no longer to be a vegetarian. He's given permission then to eat the animals. Well, as I said, Noah only had 1 week to get this job done because Genesis 7:4, for after 7 more days I will cause it to rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made. Now Noah is commanded to enter the ark because the rain will start in 7 days. And it's his cue to start loading the animals and to fit them into their nest. Now, in building the ark, back in chapter 6, Noah was given a command to make rooms in the ark. The Hebrew word for rooms is kin, which in the Old Testament refers to a bird's nest. And when you see it, it has that connotation. Here it's used in a general way. And the way it's used is to make rooms, compartments, cages, or nest or cells or units in Noah's Ark. When I visited Noah's Ark, not this Noah's Ark, but the Noah's Ark in Ohio, and I walked through the Ark, I saw all the different cages that were there for the different animals. And some of the cages were stacked on top of each other. And some of them were much larger, and some were smaller, depending on the type of the animals that were there. And some of these cages or nests were even built like stalls for the mammals to live. So God knew all along, and he was helping Noah as he gave him the blueprint for how to do all of this. The animals came to Noah through the direction of God. Noah did not have to travel out to find all these animals and collect them. Can you imagine if God said, Noah, you got 7 days to go out and find all the animals? Without the modern conveniences of the automobile or the trucks or trains that we have today, Noah would certainly have spent all of his time traveling. But what happened was God brought the animals to Noah, and they waited to board the ark. We're going to talk more about getting on the ark next week. During the 7 days before the rain came, Noah and his family probably spent the week on the ark, acclimating themselves to the quarters and to the animals. Before the flood, the animals had no fear of man because man was a vegetarian. So come to verse 5, and it's a really important verse because we're going to see that Noah had full obedience. Noah's heart was to do whatever God told him to do. 7:5 says, and Noah did according to all that God commanded him. You know, the first time that God told Noah to do something, it was to make an ark. Well, now the ark's complete. And so now he gives him the second commandment of get all the animals on board. Get ready to go. And we see that Noah's faithful in that. He's still obeying after the ark is completed. And this is probably what won him a place in the Hebrews Hall of Fame, as we call it. Hebrews 11:7. By faith, Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. He'd never seen it rain before. He'd never seen the world destroyed before. He'd never seen a boat that big before. But by faith, he believed God. By faith, he took action. God said, destruction is coming. Make yourself ready. Noah believed. Noah's faith can be compared to that of Abraham. When God told Abraham that he wanted him to offer up his only son, Isaac, as a sacrifice, he told him that one day. The next day, Genesis 22:3. So Abraham arose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac, his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, which would be Isaac, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Abraham believed God when God said that his son would die. Noah obeyed God when he said that all the earth would be destroyed. Think of the faith that it took for both men. But we're looking today at Noah. And Noah knew that if he got on that ark, and if the rain fell, and there was only him, his family, and the animals, that everyone else that he knew and loved would die, because God had said they were so wicked and the corruption was so great. But in spite of that, Noah obeyed. He said, God, I realize that you are in control. He loved God enough to trust him. And he knew that if he stayed, he would only die with everyone else. And not only would he die with everyone else, but so was his family. And so he made the choice that he was going to obey God and save himself and save his family. Today, you have a choice. You can obey God. You can save yourself. You can save yourself from destruction. And as you are that righteous person, just as Noah was, you can pray for household salvation, and you can believe that God will save those that you love. You can pray and say, God, have mercy on my family. Have mercy on those I love. God kept Noah's family safe because Noah was a righteous man who followed him. I believe in the power of prayer. The power of prayer that will save you today because you believe in what Jesus did, that he died for you. And the power of prayer that God said that this is how he demonstrated his love, and that while we were yet sinners, he sent his only son Jesus to die for us. If God loved us enough that he would let his son die for us, then the way we obey him is to believe it enough that we will choose to live for him.